Roger Federer is back at the US Open. And this wasn't just another celebrity appearance. For the first time since 2019, the 20-time Grand Slam champion walked back onto the legendary Arthur Ashe Stadium court. And what happened next gave tennis fans a moment they may never forget. Across the net was one of Federer's greatest rivals and longtime friends, Andy Roddick. The crowd was packed. The atmosphere was electric. And then Federer picked up a racket and showed New York that the magic hasn't completely disappeared. In an emotional exhibition showdown, Federer defeated Roddick 6-3. But that wasn't the end. The Swiss legend then teamed up with John McEnroe to face Roddick and Andre Agassi in doubles. And the result? Another Federer victory. But the score isn't even the biggest story. The biggest story is why Federer came back to Arthur Ashe Stadium, and why this night meant so much to him. Tennis Federer is back in New York. For years, Roger Federer and the US Open were almost inseparable. From 2004 through 2008, Federer won 5 consecutive US Open singles titles, a record that still stands. New York became one of the defining stages of his career. But after his final US Open appearance in 2019, Federer never returned to compete at Flushing Meadows. Then came retirement. In 2022, Federer officially stepped away from professional tennis. And suddenly, the possibility of seeing him compete at Arthur Ashe Stadium again seemed almost impossible. Until now. On August 25, 2026, the tennis icon returned for a special Fan Week event titled Roger Federer, an Icon Returns to New York. And the reaction from the New York crowd was exactly what you'd expect. A hero was home. Stadium Arthur Ashe Stadium erupts. When Federer walked onto the court, the atmosphere immediately changed. Fans filled the stadium wearing the famous RF logo. The crowd gave the Swiss legend a huge welcome. And for Federer, this wasn't simply about playing tennis again. It was about reconnecting with a place that had played such an enormous role in his life. Federer has spoken about his incredible memories of New York and Arthur Ashe Stadium. And those memories go all the way back to the beginning of his relationship with the city. He first visited New York as a junior in 1998. Years later, he would become one of the most successful players the US Open had ever seen. Now he was standing on that court again, not as a professional competitor, but as a champion returning home. Crossed swords Federer versus Roddick, one more time. And then came the matchup fans had been waiting for. Roger Federer versus Andy Roddick. Their rivalry was one of the defining rivalries of the 2000s. Roddick possessed one of the biggest serves in tennis. Federer had one of the most complete games the sport had ever seen. Their battles produced unforgettable moments. But this time, there was no Grand Slam trophy on the line. No ranking points. No pressure of a professional tournament. Just two legends enjoying the moment. And yet, when the ball was in play, Federer still looked like Federer. Federer wins 6-3. The exhibition singles match was played as one set. And Federer came away with the victory. Final score. Roger Federer 6, Andy Roddick 3. Yes, Federer was still winning points on Arthur Ashe Stadium. At 45 years old. Years after retirement. And while this was an exhibition, the moment was still incredibly special. The crowd wasn't simply watching a tennis match. They were watching a piece of tennis history come alive again. Face screaming in fear, but Federer wasn't finished. You might think beating Roddick was the headline. It wasn't, because Federer had another match waiting. And this time, the lineup was even more legendary. Federer teamed up with John McEnroe. On the other side, Andy Roddick and Andre Agassi. Think about that combination. For names that represent different eras of tennis. For champions. For personalities. One Arthur Ashe Stadium. And the crowd got exactly the kind of entertainment they came for. Trophy Federer and McEnroe take the doubles. The doubles exhibition became another victory for Federer. Federer and McEnroe defeated Roddick and Agassi 7-5. That gave Federer 2 exhibition victories on the same night. Singles victory, doubles victory, and an unforgettable return to New York. The official US Open report described the night as a once-in-a-lifetime exhibition, and the results certainly lived up to the occasion. Red Heart, this was never really about winning. Here's the most important part. Federer wasn't returning because he wanted to launch a comeback. He wasn't trying to return to the ATP Tour. And he wasn't trying to prove that he could still compete professionally. Federer has made it clear that he has no plans to return to competitive tennis. Instead, this night was about something much more meaningful. It was about saying goodbye properly. It was about thanking the fans. And it was about celebrating a relationship with the US Open that lasted for decades. Final thought. Roger Federer doesn't need another Grand Slam. He doesn't need another ranking. He doesn't need another trophy. He's already accomplished almost everything a tennis player could possibly dream of. But what he can still give fans is something different. A memory. And on August 25, 2026, he gave New York one more. He walked into Arthur Ashe Stadium. He faced Andy Roddick. He won 6-3. Then he teamed up with John McEnroe and beat Roddick and Andre Agassi 7-5. And thousands of fans got to see one of tennis's greatest icons pick up a racket in New York one more time. Roger Federer is officially retired. But for one unforgettable night, the King of New York was back. He didn't return for ranking points. He didn't return for a Grand Slam. He returned for the fans. He returned for the memories. And he returned to say goodbye to a city that played such a huge role in his legendary career. So now I want to hear from you. Where does Roger Federer rank among the greatest tennis players of all time? And what was your favorite Federer moment at the US Open? Drop your answer in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more US Open and tennis news. Because Federer may have retired from professional tennis, but his legacy is still very much alive.